Hi everyone, imagine the healthcare system where technology promises equity, but quietly leaves the most vulnerable behind. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Malaysia embraced telehealth through MySejahtera and Doctor On Call, guided by National Digital Health Blueprint 2021 to 2027. But once lockdowns ended, usage dropped by 50%, especially among the elderly and B40 groups. Digital illiteracy, trust deficits, and complex platforms continue to push marginalized users out of the system. This creates a critically sustainability gap in achieving Malaysia's Industry 5.0 healthcare goals. My research addresses this gap by combining unified theory of acceptance and use of technology, expectation confirmation model, and digital trust into the integrated framework to understand long-term engagement, not just initial adoption. Rather than asking, why do users adopt, I ask, why do they stop? And more importantly, how can we design digital health that truly includes everyone? This diagram outlines the key concepts and contextual pillars that structure my research and sustain telehealth use in Malaysia. My research questions are crucial because they don't just study this engagement but break it down at its roots. Question 1 exposes why users drop off, revealing overlooked behavioral and emotional barriers that traditional models like unified theory of acceptance fail to capture. Question 2 zoom in on trust erosion, showing how demographic inequities, especially for B40 and elderly, undermine long-term engagement. And question 3 goes beyond diagnosis to drive practical, stakeholder-informed platforms like MySejahtera. Together, these questions shift my research from academic observation to real-world intervention and provide strategic blueprint for building inclusive, trust-based digital health system. Objectives derived from research questions. First, I investigate the behavioral, emotional, and technological barriers that interrupt telehealth continuity. This goes beyond adoption to understand the real causes of disengagement. Second, I explore how stakeholder and demographic variables like age, income, and digital literacy influence trust and sustain use. This allows me to uncover for whom the system fails and why. Third, I validate the integrated framework that combines united theory of acceptance and use, expectation confirmation theory, and digital trust. This gives me a more holistic model to test with structural equation modeling. And fourth, I translate insight into stakeholder-informed strategies aligned with Malaysia Industry 5.0 vision. To do this, I conduct qualitative interviews to reflect real user voices and needs. The objective shift the study from just understanding drop-off to designing solutions that are evidence-based, inclusive, and scalable. My research delivers a clear model for sustaining user engagement after adoption. As you can see here, I propose an integrated framework combining three theories. But more than theory, this framework captures something often overlooked: continuous intention. Not just whether users try a platform once, but whether they return, trust it, and can use it independently, especially for underprivileged groups. By surfacing these long-term behavioral, emotional factors, my research moves beyond uptake rates. It gives healthcare leaders a way to assess what truly works and what still fails for those who need the digital health the most. My research value extends well beyond academic contribution. It's a strategic tool for designing resilient, equitable, and trusted healthcare future. In healthcare, it offers a way to close long-standing engagement gaps by helping policymakers and platform designers build systems that truly work for everyone, not just tech-savvy few. In business space, it supports public-private partnership through measurable outcomes like user retention and trust, two critical factors for scaling digital health responsibly. For society, it reframes success not as access alone, but as empowerment, giving marginalized users the ability to use telehealth confidently and independently. And regionally, this framework is scalable. It can offer other Southeast Asian countries address the same equity and trust deficits, making Malaysia a blueprint for inclusive digital health innovation. My research extends existing models. United theory of acceptance and use gives the baseline for understanding why people adopt technology. Expectation confirmation theories adds a layer by linking satisfaction to continued use, but both lack something crucial: how trust, emotional readiness affect sustained engagement, especially for older or underserved users. That's where the digital trust comes in. I combine these theories into 360 view that captures not just rational behavior but also emotional structural barriers like fear of data misuse or lack of confidence. This is important because the people most likely to benefit from telehealth, like the elderly, most likely to drop off. So this framework isn't just theoretical, it's practical. It addresses real gaps and gives policymakers and designers a lens to build systems that are not only adopted but sustained. Key trends prior studies expose important blind spots. For example, Lu et al. 2023 showed that telehealth usage in Malaysia surged during COVID-19 but dropped sharply post-pandemic, highlighting a serious continuity problem. A2BRM et al. 2025 provides demographic insight showing how lower income, education, and age group, especially those above 60, are less likely to sustain telehealth use, even when affordability programs are offered. Their regression table confirms that trust and socioeconomic status shape usage patterns. Tan et al. 2025 found that while factors like performance expectancy matter, emotional well-being and trust were stronger predictors of use among older adults. Yet, despite noting these variables, none of these studies integrate them in a single predictive model, nor do they test continuity as a formal outcome. That's where my studies fills a gap. By combining user satisfaction, emotional well-being, and digital trust, and validating their effects across underserved groups using both survey and stakeholder insights. Other studies such as Hassan et al. 2022 stress that weak infrastructure and service fragmentation still limit low-frequency tech use. Lu et al. 2023 show how Malaysia's telehealth efforts lag behind countries like UK and US due to fragmented integration across the private and public sector. Meanwhile, Aborogila et al. 2021 revealed that sample biases and lack of trust metrics limit understanding of real user behavior, especially among digitally excluded populations. Valencia Arias et al. 2024 go further, urging the need for behavioral models that factor the social determinants like education, race, and economic status. Yet, despite these calls, the trust gap remains underexplored. These studies collectively affirm the need for more inclusive, trust-sensitive framework. That's where my research contributes. By linking the digital trust, emotional readiness, and stakeholder insight to build model not just for adoption but for long-term engagement. My research framework works past intention use and asking why people stop using telehealth, especially those who are older, lower income, or digitally anxious. It begins with AUT2 to identify what motivates people to adopt, things like performance expectancy and social influence. That's where expectation confirmation theory comes in, linking satisfaction and continued use. However, both models miss out critical piece: trust. That's why I embed digital trust as a core construct capturing privacy, reliability, and emotional well-being. What makes the framework actionable is how it connects these constructs through structural equation model to detect what actually sustains use, and through the stakeholders' interviews to surface systematic barriers that surveys miss, like exclusionary design or weak digital support. Moderators like age and income allows me to test who benefits and who's left behind. Stakeholders' insight fit directly into the model, making it not just predictive but policy relevant. This isn't just theory, it's a tool to design fairer, more trusted telehealth system. Hypothesis statements test both positive and negative pathways to reveal what truly sustains or blocks telehealth use. Hypothesis H1 and H3 expect positive effects. When users are satisfied and emotionally well, they are more likely to build digital trust, which drives continued use. But H2 predicts a negative moderation. Even when users find telehealth useful, That benefit is often weakened for B40 groups and older adults due to digital barriers like low literacy or income constraints. These hypotheses matter because they move beyond generic adoption studies. They show that trust and emotional readiness are essential, but demographic disadvantages still disrupt engagement. My research doesn't just confirm what works, it shows who it works for, where it fails, and why, offering a clear evidence-backed insights for building inclusive and sustainable telehealth system in Malaysia. Conclusion: my theoretical integrated model reframes telehealth sustainability, not just as technology challenge, but as an urgent trust and equity crisis. My framework goes further by embedding digital trust and emotional readiness, especially for underserved populations. For scholars, it opens new ground on trust in low-resource settings. For policymakers and developers, it offers diagnostic lens to retain, not just reach, vulnerable users. Economically, improving retention means reducing wasted investment, maximizing digital health ROI, building systems resilient through Malaysia Industry 5.0 future. The time is to act now, before digital health becomes yet another source of exclusion. Below are the references used for my studies. Thank you.